A march which aims to bring an end to the killing of women and girls is taking place in Kenya's capital. The attacks are known as Femicide, and the police fired tear gas to disperse the crowds rallying in Nairobi. They want the government to take urgent action against gender-based violence. At least 97 women have been killed in Kenya in the past 3 months. A United Nations report on gender violence says the most dangerous place for women is at home. About 51,000 women and girls around the world were killed last year by an intimate partner or a family member. That roughly equates to 140 victims a day. Africa recorded the highest number of cases, with nearly 3 victims for every 100,000 people. High rates were also seen in the Americas, with about 1.5 victims for every 100,000 people. The report released for the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women shows an increase of 2,300 victims compared to the year before. Investigators say the rise was largely because more data is now available. We're going to bring in Sheena Jonker. She's head of Alternative Dispute Resolution Network, and she's a former ambassador for the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. She's joining us from Durban in South Africa. Thank you very much indeed for being with us. It's one of the key elements of this report, if I understand it correctly, is that the refuge, the safest place one would assume for women and girls, the home, is now the place where they are most likely to be at risk from violence. What do we read into that?
Well, the people that are normally charged with the protection of women and children are often the most dangerous to them. And so that is part of what the scourge is.
I understand that a lot of this has got to do with the level of data that's been recorded, and that to some degree is influencing the kind of numbers that we're seeing. With the numbers that we're seeing in this report, how does that, in your estimation, reflect the reality of the situation?
I think that it's probably far worse than we think, because we do know that, for example, in sexual violence crimes and in domestic violence crimes in South Africa, there's a significant amount of underreporting because of all kinds of things: fear of repercussions, economic enmeshment that complicates the situation. So I think it is underreported, and so we probably don't know what the full extent of the situation actually is.
The UN says apparently that it's been hard generally to pull together statistics for femicides because there simply aren't that many governments who are collecting what they would regard as reliable data. What does that suggest to us about the way that governments around the world regard femicide?
Well, I think a lot of governments are starting to strategically look at improving both their substantive and their procedural laws. In South Africa, our public protector has just finalized a report on gender-based violence, and specifically administrative deficiencies within criminal justice. And they've made some very good recommendations, which I think, if are able to be activated, will help victims of domestic violence to get the protection, at least, that they need. That report is available for me to email to you, which I can do after this.
Thank you very much. I'd appreciate that. I mean, historically, it has always been the case, regrettably, that when there are attacks on women and girls, there are some elements, some critics who would say that the responsibility for the attacks lies with the women and girls themselves. Now, of course, we're in the midst of the internet and the increase of social media. I'm just interested to know, to what extent do you think that social media plays a role in the way that attacks on women and girls are, first of all, perceived, and secondly, dealt with?
Well, I think it's more historical than social media, because when women and girls have been attacked, the focus has always been on the victim. What was the victim doing? What was the victim wearing? Where was the victim? And we need to bring the spotlight onto the perpetrator. Why are perpetrators doing this? Where are they? What are they doing that allows them to think that this is okay? So I think we need to, the language of this historically has been to spotlight the victim rather than the perpetrator. So I think we need to be having more balanced conversations. Perpetrators are often anonymous through this whole process.
It's very interesting to get your thoughts on this. Sheena Jonker, we're very grateful to you for being with us on Al Jazeera. Thank you very much.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.